Hello everyone, I'm Lagu. Today we're going to talk about the big news regarding the Mexican alien mummies and the recent hearings in the US and other countries. I'm not sure if you've heard, but on September 12th, the Mexican Congress held a hearing about unidentified flying objects, where they showcased two mummies suspected to be of alien origin. This is the first time the Mexican government held a public hearing like this, gathering experts globally, including ex-US military personnel, politicians from various countries, and UFO experts and journalists to discuss unidentified flying objects. Mexico hosts this gathering because it has always had many UFO sightings. They invited former US military personnel because the US consistently has the most UFO sighting reports worldwide. In this area, they have a significant voice, so they want to gather some experience. Moreover, the United States has quite a bit of public information on this topic, which we will discuss in detail later. The highlight of the entire hearing was at the end when Jaime Maussan, a renowned Mexican journalist and UFO expert, presented two small mummies. From their appearance, they look almost identical to the aliens we see in movies or legends, with small faces, long oval-shaped back of the head, and very slender bodies. Of course, the slenderness is typical for mummies. These two mummies are approximately 60 centimeters tall. All possess 3 fingers, and similarly, the toes are 3 in number. I am curious if everyone still recalls, in our earlier films concerning alien mummies, there was a detailed introduction of a mummy with 3 fingers. However, was it this diminutive? That particular one was somewhat larger, yet it, along with these two, was unearthed in the identical location in the year 2017. They were discovered near the Nazca line. So are these possibly children? I'm unsure. Weren't the minions said to be incapable of reproduction? Indeed. So they might be large extraterrestrials or small extraterrestrials. On both occasions, when these mummies were discovered, they had this white substance on them. When they were initially found in 2017, this white substance was adhered to them. It might have been resin, but currently it's suggested it could be diatomaceous earth. Diatom mud absorbs water, speeding up drying. Other traits, regardless of size, are the same. No ears, eyes are slits, and all have 3 fingers. But as you said, the one we discussed earlier is a bit larger. The body is curled up, and when extended, it's about 1.68 meters. These two straightened bodies are only 60 centimeters. In the previous mummy, the film mentioned that in 2017, a large and a small mummy were discovered. The large one was displayed, but the small one wasn't because it was incomplete. So where did these two come from? After the discovery of one large and one small, these 2 small ones were found, making a total of 1 large and 3 small ones. There are even rumors that over 20 were discovered in total. Everyone, please note that Jaime Maussan never claimed these two are aliens. He emphasized that to understand what this thing is, he had it tested by experts. It was dated using radiocarbon dating, indicating it's over 1,000 years old. The DNA was also tested, and it was said not to match any known species on Earth. He welcomes NASA and authoritative institutions worldwide to conduct their own tests. If you don't believe it, you're welcome to test it yourself. Once this thing was displayed, it became a hot topic, and many people started paying attention to it. However, soon after, many people online began to question its authenticity, suggesting it might be a fabrication. A more compelling argument is that these two It is said to be made by combining a sheep's skull with the bones of a Spanish colonizer's remains from 1,000 years ago, not examined by experts.
Yes, it was tested. The DNA didn't match any known species on Earth.
Yes. Why are there contradictions in what's said? After he unearthed these two, one big and one small, in 2017, the story went viral and many found out. Soon, many items claiming to be alien remains or mummies appeared on Peru's black market. It turned out they were all fake, looking roughly the same. Some big, some small. Those people claimed to have found about 20, and I was involved in one of those. However, Sponge Moss can simply say we dug up 4 and the rest are artificially assembled using alpaca skulls and other animals, even parts of human mummies. For example, using a forearm as a leg, crafted with great detail. It was all meant to be sold for a high price, and you can't date them with radiocarbon dating because of their origin from that era. To substantiate that his discoveries were authentic and not artificially constructed, following the public hearing, Jaime Maussan, along with the media, transported the 2 mummies to a nearby medical facility in Mexico City known as the Noor Clinic. At this location, the clinic's medical professionals performed an on-site evaluation of the 2 skeletal remains and transmitted the examination procedure worldwide. In the end, the doctors at the Noor Clinic gave their assessment, stating that the skeleton is a complete one with no signs of assembly. Although they are unsure if it is extraterrestrial, they are certain it is not fabricated. They are complete. Then the director of the Mexican Navy Office of Health Sciences, Jose Benitez, reiterated the doctor's conclusion to the media. He emphasized that these 2 mummies have absolutely no relation to humans. Furthermore, he also mentioned that they found something resembling an egg within a skeleton in Mason's possession. It was suggested that this object might have been in a state of pregnancy at the time. An egg, like an egg indeed. As for what these 2 things actually are, it's still under discussion and debate. Some people even suspect that this might be a special kind of human species that once existed on Earth. Quite similar to how we previously introduced Neanderthals and Denisovans, he could potentially be a distinctive species that inhabited the region of Peru, and he possesses 3 fingers. When discussing 3 fingers, it's not merely about having 3 fingers. Each individual finger consists of 6 segments. We possess 3 segments, yet it has 6 elongated segments, making its fingers inherently longer and containing more segments. Which is more advantageous, having 6 segments or 3? It appears that 4 segments could potentially be more flexible, but possessing a thumb is undeniably more beneficial, isn't it? Indeed, it lacks a thumb, and without a thumb it becomes quite challenging to use. These mummies emerged in proximity to the Nazca lines, and the Nazca lines were crafted by individuals in that region approximately 2,000 to 1,000 years ago, leading to speculation that they might have been the ones who drew them. Right now, we're unsure who changed it, but his fingers seem better suited for making that change.
Oh, I was just contemplating what type of implement this particular shape might be. It appears to resemble a rake or something akin to that.
Ah, could it be for raking the soil? Nevertheless, allow me to elaborate a little further regarding the Nazca lines, and you may perceive that this is somewhat distinct. In December of the previous year, the Nazca Lines Research Institute at Yamagata University in Japan declared that they had identified 168 newly found Nazca geoglyphs in Peru.
So many.
These 168 figures cannot be seen by planes or satellites. They were discovered using drones. The colors are particularly faint, and they can only be seen with some image processing effects, including this particular figure. It's really huge. It's not like it looks like a small drawing on the ground. There are also some like this. The recent discoveries are quite cartoonish. These drawings, now determined to have been made between 2100 and 1700 years ago, remain a mystery as to why people back then liked to create such large, cartoon-like drawings on the ground. But if they really did draw them, you would think they aren't anything scary, but rather something cute, right?
Say something?
Who are they making it so big for? That's the key. At that time, people couldn't see it, but he didn't draw any of it. The details of the fingers didn't include 3 fingers, right? Okay, so apart from these 2 mummies, another highlight of this Mexican hearing is that they invited former U.S. military personnel. These former U.S. military personnel also attended the UFO hearing held on July 26th in the United States. Now they're not called UFOs, but UAPs. Actually, since last year when the U.S. Department of Defense released videos related to unidentified flying objects, the U.S. has been increasing its efforts to investigate these UAP phenomena. In December of last year, President Biden signed a law requiring the U.S. Congress to hold a hearing related to UFOs every 6 months. Each year, a report must be submitted, meaning you have to report to the country on the extent of the investigation and any progress made. So now, approximately every 6 months, people can hear some new information about UFOs. The most recent U.S. hearing was held on July 26th, and this time, several very important individuals were invited, including a former U.S. Navy pilot named Ryan Graves, who was an F-18 fighter jet pilot. There is also the former U.S. Navy commander named David Corrado. Another one is the U.S. Air Force intelligence officer named David Grush. The former Navy pilot, Graves, mentioned that after 2014, more information related to UFOs was discovered because in 2014, the U.S. upgraded the radar systems of their fighter jets. Initially, they thought it was a radar malfunction, questioning how it could detect certain things flying around. Later, they realized it wasn't a false alarm, it was real. For instance, he once piloted an F-18 fighter jet on a training mission about 10 miles off the coast of Virginia and encountered an unidentified flying object. During this training mission, there were 2 planes in total, and this unidentified flying object flew between the 2 aircraft, appearing as a semi-transparent sphere. In the middle, inside the translucent part, there was a black cube. From a distance, it appeared black and gray, and it wasn't until they got closer that they realized it was actually a transparent object with something black inside it. The object was only 15 meters away from them at its closest point. The diameter is between 1.5 meters and 4.5 meters, and because it moves so fast, it's hard to determine. This object can be seen with both radar and the naked eye. So after discovering this unidentified object, the mission commander immediately ordered them to terminate the mission and return to the base, then submitted a report. However, there was no response to the report because at that time, the United States had not acknowledged UFOs. He said that at least 30 Air Force pilots are willing to confirm with their real names that they have seen such unidentified flying objects. So to these pilots, seeing unidentified flying objects is not uncommon. They often see them. However, 95% of the pilots usually don't want to report these sightings because it's quite troublesome. It's not necessarily a big problem, but they might be reassigned to ground duties. You can't sleep anymore, especially when using a weapon. What if you start hallucinating? That's what happens. Similarly, about 95% of them are unwilling to report. Among these 3 individuals, there is a U.S. Air Force intelligence officer named David Grush. He is more well known than the other 2 because he publicly reported that the U.S. government had recovered UFOs, either ones that had crashed or those they had captured. After recovery, they conducted reverse engineering, and he claimed that much of the U.S. military technology comes from these UFOs. However, he is now requesting the U.S. government to pardon him for all related charges, saying that although he has spoken out, what he said is definitely true. They cannot convict him through a secret court or make him disappear. He demands this so that he can reveal more details, otherwise he is hesitant to speak further. Regarding this person, we will do a special review to explain it to everyone later. His content is very shocking. Is he still alive? Yes, he is alive, but now every time he attends such meetings, he requests that these pieces of information be made more transparently public. There needs to be certain protection for whistleblowers like us. And this protection shouldn't just be superficial. It's like saying, oh, I'm protecting you, but then secretly getting rid of you. Because the things he mentioned, the US Department of Defense doesn't acknowledge. They deny everything he said, claiming they've never recovered a UFO or conducted reverse engineering. So from this, we can see that there are still areas of non-cooperation between politicians and military personnel in the Department of Defense. Politicians want this matter to be made public so that more people are aware of it, while the Department of Defense seems to be keeping some secrets. For example, if those 3 videos hadn't been hacked and leaked, the US Department of Defense would never have acknowledged them. It was only after they were leaked that they renamed them to UAPs. Yes. Since last year, after the US government started investigating UFO-related matters, they set up a website which was built by the military. It is specifically used to collect information related to UFOs, and anyone can provide UFO sighting reports and similar intelligence on this website. Moreover, they particularly emphasize that they do not care about the identity of the person providing the information, whether they are from the government or the military. You will not encounter any legal prosecution or be dealt with simply because you provide some confidential information. They particularly emphasize that there are no penalties. The website is called arrow.mil, which stands for All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, an acronym in handwritten letters. Global signifies that it is an office or organization that extends across all departments within the United States, enabling it to gather information from any department. This domain name, which individuals might not have encountered before, is indeed one of the world's earliest top-level domains. It's just like .com. However, people haven't heard of it because it's a language specifically used by the US military, and ordinary people cannot register it. So, this website is definitely an official one and has a very strong background. Currently, although there isn't much content on the website, there are already 8 videos and a UIAP trend report. Were these uploaded by the public? No, these were released by the US military themselves. That's not all. They just felt these 8 could be public, so they were. The trend report shows. Most UFOs are found between 10,000 and 30,000 feet, or 3 to 10,000 meters. But the AR officials suggest the high number of sightings here could be due to most aircraft operating in this range. So, it's quite normal to find more of them. That is, the flying altitude of unidentified flying objects may not have much restriction. They can go wherever they want. However, there is a rather strange phenomenon here. According to this chart, the most cases of unidentified flying objects are found around 20,000 feet, which is about 6,000 meters. This altitude actually has the fewest aircraft because commercial airliners generally cruise above 9,000 meters, and small planes, private jets, and small commercial planes typically don't reach this height. They usually stay below 3,000 meters. Above 3,000 meters, cabins need oxygen supply, and small aircraft usually lack this equipment, so they don't reach this height. This leads to fewer civilian aircraft between 15 and 30,000 feet, yet this is where most UFOs are reported. It appears that they generally tend to steer clear of our designated flight zones. Nevertheless, it might also be the case that this region has a significant presence of US military fighter jets, as they too must avoid civilian aircraft flight zones. Therefore, if the majority of the content in this report originates from the US military, then it is quite understandable for this area to have a higher number of sightings. Regarding the origin of this report, it does not particularly highlight any specific source, as it seems to be compiled from various fields. According to the report, 47% of unidentified flying objects, which is almost half, are round or spherical in shape. The second most common shape is unknown, appearing almost invisible, making up about 19%. The third most common is luminous objects at 16%. The remaining shapes, such as butterfly, square, and triangular, are quite rare, around 1% to 20%, with spherical objects being the most common. These unidentified flying objects typically range in size from 1 to 4 meters, with colors predominantly white, silver, and translucent. Their flight speed is usually between stationary and 2 Mach, which is twice the speed of sound. And this subsequent parameter is especially intriguing, which is that the vast majority of unidentified flying objects identified do not show any heat emission, indicating they lack apparent engines, as engines would typically emit heat. They do not possess engines, yet they are capable of reaching velocities of up to 2 Mach. Were they identified while stationary? No, not entirely stationary. Some were, and others were at 2 Mach. These objects can predominantly be detected by radar, but the radar signals are generally mechanical. It's very difficult to capture. You might catch it for a moment and then lose it, catch it again and then lose it again. It's impossible to continuously capture and lock onto it. It might emit radio signals intermittently. It might emit radio signals, which suggests it could be some kind of device. And in the report, there's also a map that shows the areas where UFO sightings are more frequently reported. Mainly, they are concentrated on the west and east coasts of the United States, the Persian Gulf, and the eastern coast of China. Yes, you noticed the key point. They are all in coastal areas. However, the person in charge also emphasized that this might be because these areas are where the US military mainly operates. However, there's one thing about the US activity area that's hard to explain. The US military's activity range is very large, and they have a lot of activities in the Atlantic Ocean, but there are almost no reports from the Atlantic.
Yes.
Furthermore, most of these popular locations are concentrated around the 30th parallel north. This is quite unusual. The 30th parallel north is a line where many human relics are found, such as the pyramids and the Sphinx at around 29 degrees, the ancient city of from the Sumerian civilization, Changsha Mawangdui in China at 30 degrees, Sanxingdui at 31 degrees, Jerusalem at 31 degrees, Roswell at 33 degrees, and Susa in Iran at 32 degrees. While these could be coincidences, this 30-degree area is indeed a very fascinating place. There are also numerous UFO sightings, and, well, as you have mentioned, why are they predominantly over the sea? Whether it's commercial airplanes or fighter jets, they possess the capability to fly over land or sea. It's quite mysterious and intriguing why the majority of these sightings occur over the sea. We once had a film about the underground world, which suggested that the entrance to this underground world might be in the sea. This could be the reason they have to go to the sea. So why haven't they been caught by underwater radar? Well, underwater radar is basically not very useful because we understand less than 5% of the ocean. In most places, they can't be seen or detected. In the air, we have more chances to see them, but in the sea, there's basically no hope, which is why it's a pretty good hiding place for them. Now, regarding the entire report, aside from the bias caused by the range of US military activities, the report highlights the most suspicious characteristic of unidentified flying objects. They don't emit heat, they have no engines, yet they can fly at speeds up to Mach 2 or even higher. Also, it can't be locked by radar. It's strange. It's clearly a solid object that can be locked onto, but it can't be held. Alright, let's discuss the video part next, as it's crucial. There are 8 videos in total. The last 3 were introduced before, released by the US Department of Defense in the past 2 years. The other 5 we haven't covered yet, so let's review them one by one. The first and second videos showed the same object reported on January 15th, 2023. These were filmed by 2 US MQ-9 Reaper unmanned reconnaissance aircraft. The location was high altitude in South Asia. They were on a mission, with one aircraft filming the other. What we are seeing on the screen right now is a reconnaissance drone. South Asia refers to India and the surrounding countries, but we don't know the exact location. At that time, one MQ-9 was filming another MQ-9 when they noticed something flying past it at high speed. The second video shows this object from another angle. The shaking is not from the object itself, but from the MQ-9's camera trying to capture it. So it's the camera that's moving.
Not him in both.
Nothing significant occurred. He was essentially hovering in a stationary position, and after persistently zooming in, I observed this object, and then, with a sigh, it emitted something.
Comparable to the traditional gaming console that is widely recognized as ARO.
After analyzing the 2 videos, they said it might be an alien aircraft or something else. No, it's not an Earth plane. So why did he release this? Yeah, he's just not sure, and he thinks that the things being emitted are actually ghost images produced by the camera, not that the object is actually emitting something. Right now, RO hasn't provided any further explanation, just saying that it's currently believed to be a relatively normal aircraft. The third one, however, is unusual. This was on July 12, 2022, and it was also captured by an American MQ-9 unmanned reconnaissance attack aircraft in the Middle East, originally targeting a building on the ground. A road, and then suddenly something flew by unexpectedly, and he continued pursuing it as it persistently maintained that speed.
From this record.
From the appearance, it's hard to tell what this thing is. It looks like a drone, but it doesn't have any memory or propulsion system, so how can it fly? It's completely unknown right now. It feels like a balloon, but not quite a balloon, and even the color isn't that of a balloon, right? Actually, in 2016 in Mosul in northern Iraq, the United States captured something similar. In the region, a similar object was captured on film just like this one, briefly appearing and disappearing. Since it was discovered in Mosul, this object is referred to as the Mosul Orb.
How large could it be?
I don't know. It just flashed by. Even though it lasted for a few seconds, it's hard to determine how hot it was or how high above the ground it was. Both of these spheres were photographed in the Middle East. The first one, it wasn't mentioned where exactly in the Middle East, but this picture is known to be in Iraq. RO said that although we don't know what this thing is, it hasn't been observed doing anything unusual, like moving around or anything. Speaking of the Mosul sphere, it suddenly reminded me. On September 4th, 1971, individuals also managed to capture an image of a similar object. A photographer by the name of Lorsa, while engaged in land surveying for a hydroelectric project situated in the northern highlands of Costa Rica, utilized a particularly specialized camera known as a mapping camera. This camera, which was mounted on an aircraft, captured a photograph of the ground every 13 seconds. In one of these photographs, an enigmatic, round, shiny, metallic flying object appeared.
This seems like a disc.
Well, yes, but from a distance, you can't really tell if it's a sphere or a disc, right? This photo has now been confirmed to be genuine, not due to any processing errors. It's not because of dirt, double exposure, or any damage. This object was genuinely captured.
A clear base.
Is it? The diameter of this obvious metal object is between 120 feet and 220 feet, which is approximately 36 meters to 67 meters, roughly the size of a Boeing 747. This is rather sizable. The fourth video was recorded in the year 2021, utilizing an infrared camera within a military zone located in the western region of the United States. In the sky, there are 3 diminutive bright spots that are moving while keeping the same distance from each other. Please take note of those dots in the background that resemble starlight or stars. That is not what they truly are. It is in fact dust on the lens, so it is the camera that is moving, not these 3 objects. Oh, these three objects are consistently maintaining the same distance while moving at a slow pace. How do we determine this? Well, if we switch to an alternative mode and capture it once more, it becomes quite apparent. When filmed in a different mode, it looks like this, with 3 points moving at the same distance. No matter how much you zoom in, they appear as small bright spots. Now, what do I think this is? These are 3 planes, coincidentally flying at the same speed and distance. Coincidentally, these 3 aircraft are quite distant from this base, so they consistently appear as small bright points rather than the distinct shape of planes. Currently, they can only elucidate the matter in this manner. So why come aboard? They are consistently offering their own interpretations, correct? Let me inform you, the United States Department of Defense is also rather conservative. They will not disclose too much because they are apprehensive about alarming everyone. The 5th segment is also quite fascinating. This one was reported on May 17, 2022, where a US Navy fighter pilot captured an unknown object flying past the aircraft from the cockpit. Did you see him take out a phone or something to take a picture? He saw this thing flying over with the naked eye. It flew by in an instant. It was particularly fast, like a ball, right? From this footage, it's not clear if it's a sphere or some other shape. It's just a metallic shiny spot. This video was shown at the first UFO public meeting last May. The Navy officials said that they saw it as a metallic sphere with the naked eye, and it was flying towards them at a very high speed. It wasn't stationary, and it wasn't caused by my plane flying past. But it flew over by itself. Now, the remaining 3 segments are ones we've seen before. However, I want to add something about the 6th video. We've talked about this video before, but during the Air Force meeting on July 26th, there was a former Navy commander named David Fravor. This video was filmed during one of his missions. He said that in November 2004, while training near the California coast, he encountered this UFO. In the video, it seems like the object is stationary, but it's actually not. They locked onto it with radar. Didn't they say it couldn't be locked? So why couldn't you lock onto it later? When it's stationary, you can lock onto it, but as soon as it moves, you can't lock onto it. Look, this thing is about to move, and then it got locked again. Oh, it's disappeared now. This object, when observed with the unaided eye, appears like this. A capsule-shaped form with no visible seams on the upper part, white in color, with 2 appendage-like structures underneath. But we are uncertain about their purpose. He mentioned that they initially detected this object utilizing the radar system. Subsequently, they observed it with their unaided eyes. This object swiftly descended from an altitude of 24,000 meters to 6,000 meters and then halted in mid-air. As they were preparing to approach it, the object commenced bouncing around akin to a ping-pong ball near the ocean's surface, moving incessantly. When they were merely 800 meters distant from it, the object abruptly accelerated and vanished. Then, a minute later, it was detected by others 100 kilometers away. Naval personnel discovered it. It moved 100 kilometers in a minute.
Sure it's from one aircraft?
It's just in that direction. This is the location of this UFC event. It's still quite shocking because finding the person involved to explain the situation is different, making it very real and not just speculation. So all the information publicly available online means it's not false information. The video is accurate, it's real, but we still don't know why these situations are happening. All the information above has been verified by the US Department of Defense, so everyone can check it out. Therefore, we might make a UFO related video every 6 months to share the latest information with everyone. We hope you all look forward to it.
I feel like we are getting closer and closer to aliens, but AR me.
I guess it won't point to aliens. Got it.
Clear their name.
Its primary function might potentially be more focused on concealing the truth. In other words, nearly all UFO phenomena are typically explained away by attributing them to aircraft, balloons, or other comparable objects.
In the cradle, snuffed out. Send it to me. Yes, everything you send, I'll snuff it out.